The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Wall is a testament to the officers who have given their lives in the line of duty in America. This is where we remember and honor them.
This is a special place. These are the law enforcement officers around the country who went to work and didn't come home. This is where our entire nation recognizes the sacrifice of those officers and the loss to those families.
It's a healing place. It's a beautiful place. It's law enforcement's holy ground.
Yeah, the history of the memorial really goes back to the 1970s when a police officer in New York suggested we enact legislation to build a National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. That led to the effort to raise the money, to select the site. The first national ceremony during Police Week was in 1982. That was 2 years before this memorial was authorized by Congress. More than 4 million Americans contributed money to make sure that this monument was built. And now we have a National Law Enforcement Museum right across the street to tell the stories behind the names on these walls. When we were creating the design for this memorial, we wanted it to be a peaceful, park-like setting where families and colleagues and citizens could come and reflect on the level of service and sacrifice law enforcement gives this country. The touching moments that occurred, and you see it every day. It allows them that moment to remember and honor their fallen colleague or fallen loved one.
There's this sort of haunting, majestic beauty here. It's the way that it moves fluidly, how understated and beautiful it is. My brother, Brian T. Gibson, was a Metropolitan Police officer. We're at 50E, which is where Brian's name is. He's right here. The first time I saw Brian's name on the wall was really difficult. I remember my mother and I both put our hands on it. You feel the embrace of thousands of other law enforcement officers. It's not just your officer.
We lost Harvey to 9/11 related cancer. It changes everything when it's someone you knew. Everything just kind of comes back at once, and there's just a very real presence when you come here because they're here too.
My husband, Sergeant Chris Eney, died in the line of duty in August of 1984. When I lost Chris, I really didn't know what to do or where to go. But being near this memorial brought me comfort. Being around others who had lost their loved ones, it became a family. Especially if it's around Police Week, you see a lot of children. My girls were 9 and 11 when their dad died. To see these children here can really tear at the heartstrings. To have this for survivors coming in and these other law enforcement officers, it just means everything. It just can bring such peace, even through tears. You're not alone when you're here.
So while I'm here etching my brother's name, they are adding panels to the wall because we know that so many more officers are going to make that ultimate sacrifice, and it's really sad.
There will be more names and more survivors coming in, and we will be here for all of them.
It is comforting to know that the sacrifice of thousands of law enforcement officers will not be forgotten. The wall remembers and honors them.
The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial is a place of honor and remembrance for families of the fallen, fellow officers, and visitors here in Washington, D.C. Our role here at the Memorial Fund is holistic. It's heavy. It's important. We are serving our fallen. We are educating the public, and we are keeping our officers safe. Our mission is to ensure that the memorial remains a constant place of honor and a permanent memorial in our nation's capital. I have friends that are on that wall, folks that I worked with over the years, officers who gave their lives doing a job they loved. Ensuring that the memorial, museum, and our officer safety and wellness programs are here in perpetuity is much too great a task for one group. All officers can help ensure that the memorial and museum are here for future generations. Our experience has been that many law enforcement officers, active and retired around the nation, want to have a more active role in what's happening at the memorial and in the museum. So we created the Ambassador Program as an opportunity to have better and richer contacts with the law enforcement community around the nation. Ambassadors are a voice in their communities for the memorial and the museum and our officer safety and wellness program. Our law enforcement ambassadors play a vital role, and their support serves to bring awareness to the noble work being done at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. These current and prior municipal, city, county, state, federal, and military law enforcement officers represent the memorial at ceremonies, events, and funeral services nationally. They bring a much welcomed and uniquely localized perspective, which allows them to exchange an ever-changing flow of information related to officer safety and wellness trends. Our ambassadors play an important role in ensuring that best practices in officer safety and wellness reach our men and women on duty throughout the country, and sharing this valuable information through roll call trainings, presentations, and one-on-one interactions will help keep our officers safe and remind them to take care of themselves. And by having ambassadors in the field, it affords us the opportunity to be able to communicate with them in real time and also get information back from the field on emerging trends and concerns that they see, so we can address programming appropriately. We are recruiting active and retired law enforcement officers from around the nation to further the vision of our mission through education and philanthropy, and to help us carry out our mission here at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. Having these ambassadors is an invaluable tool during a time that law enforcement work has become increasingly more difficult, dangerous, and unpredictable. Simply put, these ambassadors are not only serving to respect, honor, and remember fallen officers, they are helping to keep the names off the memorial walls too. The first step to becoming an ambassador is filling out an application, which can be found on our website. It's a very stringent process because we are looking for only the best of the best. Our goal is to have an ambassador as a liaison in every law enforcement agency across the United States. Our ambassadors ensure that the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and National Law Enforcement Museum continues to be supported to provide a place of honor and a permanent memorial in our nation's capital for future generations.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Board of Directors of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund and their distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Merrick Garland, Attorney General of the United States. The Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security. Congressman John Rutherford, Managing Partner of the Ashcroft Law Firm and Board Chair of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, Lori Sharp Day, and Chief Executive Officer of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, Bill Alexander. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of colors by the United States Park Police Honor Guard and the national anthem performed by retired Las Cruces, New Mexico police officer and country music recording artist Frank Ray.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please remain standing as Reverend Markel Hutchins, CEO of Movement Forward, lead organizer of National Faith and Blue Weekend, and a member of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund Board of Directors, gives the invocation.
Let us pray. O God, our God, how excellent is your name in all the earth. Here we are, God. We know you by many names. We know you in different ways. But we know you are in control. Before we ask you for anything tonight, God, we want to tell you, thank you for what you've already done. We thank you for this beautiful gathering of people who have come from far and near to celebrate the fallen. We thank you that you sent a beautiful day. We thank you that there's more that unites us together tonight than there is that divides us. We thank you for being God and being good all the time. We pray, God, that you would send your healing tonight that you would send your power tonight, that you would do what only you can do, that you would mend broken hearts, the families of the fallen. Help them to know, God, that not only are we here to support them, but you are right there with them. We thank you for the officers who made the sacrifice to serve those whom Jesus called the least of these. We give your name the praise tonight. There's so much that we don't understand and know about this thing called life, but this one thing we are sure of: there's a power in this world that's greater than our own. We acknowledge that power. We appeal to that power. We thank you for that power. Bless our gathering tonight. If you do these things, we'll be careful to give you praise, because indeed you are worthy to be praised. It's in your name that we pray. Let every heart say, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Please welcome Bill Alexander, Chief Executive Officer of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Members of the Memorial Fund Board, Attorney General Garland, Secretary Mayorkas, Congressman Rutherford, former Congresswoman Demings, distinguished guests, members of law enforcement, citizen supporters, and to all those who have joined us this evening, including the thousands around the nation who are joining us via live stream. Welcome to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 36th Annual Candlelight Vigil. As you're likely aware, over the past several years, corporations and organizations of all sizes seem to have been pulling away, both publicly and privately, from supporting law enforcement. As so many of you know, the Memorial Fund has, since its inception, existed entirely on donations. Donations from individuals across the country and from our dedicated corporate partners. Tonight, I'd like to publicly thank some of our corporate partners, including Verizon, Motorola Solutions Foundation, the Police Unity Tour, Tyler Technologies, Haas Alert, 511 Tactical, Target, Wheelan Engineering, and more. The many organizations and companies who have supported us year after year. These companies have stood proudly with law enforcement, and they have generously helped to fund tonight's ceremony. Without their support, tonight's ceremony and the work we do all year would not be possible. Tonight we gather to honor the 282 men and women whose names were most recently added to our sacred memorial, and to continue the tradition first started in 1991, when the more than 12,000 names initially inscribed were read over the course of 24 hours. Some 33 years later, there are now 24,067 names on our sacred walls. A series of quotes joins those names on the memorial walls. One of those quotes located in the southwest corner of the memorial from then President Bush, who was president for the inauguration of our memorial, begins with, "Carved on these walls is the story of America." Tonight we gather to reflect on another chapter of that American story, a story to which both you and your loved ones are now inextricably linked. Each of the heroes we honor tonight and the families they leave behind will now forever be a part of the ongoing story of American law enforcement, a story filled with selfless heroism, dedicated service, and heartbreaking sacrifice. As a retired police officer myself, and having attended candlelight vigils in prior years following the deaths of 16 of my peers over a 25-year career, I contemplated what I might want to hear were I seated here tonight for the first time. I thought about telling some anecdotal stories about the men I knew whose names now adorn our sacred walls. But ultimately, I decided to tell a more personal story, a story which might cost me something, but a story which might also better resonate with you, the surviving family, friends, and coworkers of those we honor tonight. Almost exactly 2 years ago, my wife and I were on what we thought was a once-in-a-lifetime vacation overseas. We started by exploring London, right at the tail end of Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, and then embarked on a cruise ship for ports across Europe. A few days into that journey, my wife received a phone call from our teenage son, whom we had left at home with his sister and grandmother. Within seconds of her answering, I could see the stark terror reflected in my wife's eyes, and after hearing the briefest fragments, which included the words police and paramedics, I knew something catastrophic had happened. That something catastrophic was the death of our 15-year-old daughter, Eve. The next 24 hours was a hellish nightmare, trying desperately to make last-minute travel plans in one country after another, where we didn't speak the language and our cell phones would not connect to local networks. We finally landed in the U.S. shattered, broken, and almost completely oblivious to what had transpired in the intervening 24 hours it took us to get home. We quickly came to learn that my police family, our police family, had stepped in to fill the void of our absence. The department I retired from months before, which had no obligation to me and did not service the area in which I lived, had deployed personnel and resources to help my family. The chief of police in the jurisdiction where I lived, who knew little more than my name, stood for hours in our living room to help guide and console the members of our family who arrived many hours before we did. In one of our few successful calls home, officers overheard the anguished cries of my wife that our daughter was afraid of the dark and she could not be left alone. Only after arriving home did we become aware that uniformed men and women, whose names we did not know, volunteered to stand watch over our daughter at the funeral home until we could join her there. I could go on for hours and hours about how and where our police brothers and sisters stood by me and my family, but I suspect that some part of my story mirrors some part of yours. That each of you could easily fill in the blanks of how the men and women in uniform who surround us right now stepped up to help me, and by extension, each of you during our darkest hours. I tell you my story not to engender sympathy from this honored gathering. In fact, I beg you to strip from your minds the story, the specifics of my loss. I have no desire in any way to distract from the honor and recognition which each of your loved ones so rightly deserve this evening. Instead, I hope you might use my story as a starting point and focus on the parts of our story which most overlap, which is that our extended police family is critical to the healing process. I can say with quiet confidence, I would not have remained sane, much less be able to stand here to tell this story without the ongoing support of the very same extended police family which has wrapped each of you in their warm embrace and walked with each of you every step of the journey which has led you here tonight. From police funerals and gun salutes to the sounds of echo taps at local memorials and remembrances, to a trip to Washington, D.C., where the first time you have seen the names of your loved ones inscribed on our sacred memorial walls. And finally, tonight, to a candlelight vigil, where the names of these heroes will be read aloud to be memorialized in the conscience of our country for all time. While I cannot promise you that you will one day be healed, as I am far from that state myself, my greatest wish is that by virtue of hearing my story, each of you might feel a glimmer of hope. A glimmer of hope wherever you are on that healing journey tonight, and with the assistance of this police family to which you will be forever connected. That there will be a day in which you can process the overwhelming grief and deep despair and perhaps find some peace. That peace may not be possible when contemplating the tragic cause of your loved one's death, but I believe such peace may be possible if you focus instead on the selfless and courageous way in which your loved ones chose to live their lives. In search of that very same peace, particularly following the deaths of too many officers I knew personally, I would frequently recall a letter showcased early in the film Saving Private Ryan, the words of which continue to resonate with me today. That very real letter was sent to a grieving mother who was thought to have lost 5 sons on behalf of our still young republic, by the then sitting president, who wrote, "I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of the loved and lost, and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. Yours very sincerely and respectfully, Abraham Lincoln." How fruitless any words of mine indeed, and each of you have laid a very costly sacrifice upon our nation's altar of freedom. No words of mine will be able to take away the staggering pain I know that each of you feel, beyond perhaps attempting to help each of you find your own glimmer of hope. What I can do tonight is offer you a promise not just on behalf of those who work for and with the Memorial Fund, not just on behalf of the Memorial Fund board members and the national police organizations which they represent, not just on behalf of every man and every woman who ever has and ever will wear a law enforcement uniform, a promise I choose to believe on behalf of every citizen who is lucky enough to call this great country home. A promise, our promise, that the stories of your loved ones' courage and sacrifice, now woven into the fabric of the broader American story, will be forever told. Our promise that the names of your loved ones, our heroes, will never be forgotten.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lori Sharp Day, managing partner of the Ashcroft Law Firm and Board Chair of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund.
Good evening. I want to take a quick moment and thank Bill Alexander on behalf of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund Board of Directors. A little over a year ago, we asked him to step in an interim capacity as the CEO of this organization. And I think everyone in their interactions with him have reaffirmed the board's decision to make him the permanent CEO. So Bill, thank you very much for the work that you're doing on behalf of all of the fallen. Thank you very much. I do want to take a moment, though, too, and thank Attorney General and Secretary Mayorkas for being here. They have never missed a candlelight vigil in all of the years they've been in service in their positions. They've had a lot of people they tell no or have to tell no because of their incredibly busy schedules. So, again, thank you for always making this a priority. We appreciate it. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to once again welcome you to the Candlelight Vigil. Over the past few years, I've had the distinct honor and privilege to welcome you to the beginning of each vigil. So it is a great honor to be in the position to be able to do this again tonight. We welcome you and honor you, and we want to pay tribute to each one of the families that are here today. For every name that has been rung over the years and have been read, and every name that has been stated behind a bell gong hits squarely all of us in our gut. It hits us in our souls. Yes, the names of these heroes may change, but the one constant that remains the same for the families and colleagues left behind, for all of us, is grief. An overwhelming sense of grief. Dr. Earl Grolman once said, "Grief is not a disorder, a disease, or a sign of weakness. It is an emotional and physical and spiritual necessity. It is the price you pay for love, and the only cure is to grieve." So tonight we grieve. We grieve for those lost. We grieve for the anguish of what countless families are going through on a daily basis. We grieve for what the families here tonight on our nation's National Mall are going through right now as you pay the price for love. Our prayer and our hope is that every day can get somewhat brighter, that every memory, every word of encouragement, every hug, every tear, and every candle raised can help heal the wounds in your hearts. We will be with you every step of the way. You are not alone. Please know that you have the love and the support not only of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund Board, but of everyone here tonight, and also of a very grateful nation. For all survivors and for all of our law enforcement officers here tonight, we are in awe of your service and your sacrifice. May God bless each and every one of you and those who will forever be memorialized on our sacred wall. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security.
Good evening. Every day, in cities and towns across our nation. Law enforcement officers are called to serve in situations as daunting, dangerous, difficult, and varied as life itself. To a law enforcement officer, there is no such thing as a routine, risk-free dispatch. Whenever and however that call goes out, we depend on the bravest and most dedicated among us to show up. We trust that they will know what to do and that they will be willing, if necessary, to put their lives on the line to do it. It takes an extraordinary type of person to answer that call, a brave, determined, heroic person, one who every day puts on their uniform, pins on their badge, holsters their firearm, and goes to work devoted to the well-being of others above their own. Tonight, we are gathered to remember 282 such individuals, men and women who served their communities and our nation, and who gave to the cause of our safety and security the last full measure of their devotion. Their names are now forever etched among the 24,067 heroes who make up the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. We remember them all, and we honor them all. They represent the very best of America. These officers and agents investigated heinous crimes and pursued the perpetrators. They safeguarded our lives, our property, and our values. They helped people get through a moment of crisis. They kept guns and drugs off our streets. They protected our schools and houses of worship. They brought comfort and calm to their neighbors and pride to their families and friends. All this and so much more. Their service will not be forgotten even long after this candlelight vigil ends, because their contributions to our country endure. I know that to some here, they were colleagues, partners, and friends. To others, they were spouses, parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters, daughters and sons. Their absence is felt every day by so many in so many ways. May all of us continue to be blessed by their memories, their stories, and the remarkable lives they led. To the families and loved ones of the fallen with us tonight, we offer you our deepest sympathy, appreciation, and respect. No one serves alone, and we are indebted to you for the sacrifices you have made in the service of the American people and our way of life. To the law enforcement officers here this evening, thank you for continuing to carry forward the mission our nation's fallen so nobly advanced. Thank you for always answering the call to serve and for doing so with great integrity, skill, and pride. We are all safer, stronger, and better because of you. To all of you who came out to honor and remember the fallen, thank you for bringing our country together tonight, united in our reverence for the men and women of law enforcement who sacrifice so much on our behalf. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Connie Moyer, National President, Concerns of Police Survivors.
Love you all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 36th Annual Candlelight Vigil. Thank you to each and every one of you who have given your time or finances to make this evening possible. This event is so very meaningful to survivors, and we thank you from the bottoms of our heart. When I first became president of Concerns of Police Survivors, a fellow survivor asked me if I had thought about what I was going to present at the Candlelight Vigil. He said, "Connie, just speak from your heart. That's what you do best." So I'm going to share a story. Our national board was attending a retreat, and a counselor started the day out with one of those think outside the box games, which I always dread. The card I received read, "If you were reincarnated and came back as an animal, what would you be and why?" I quickly tried to give that card back because, one, I don't believe in reincarnation, and two, never being around animals, it's just not my cup of tea. Now, I do respect all of you who loved your animals. Back on subject here. I tried my darndest to give that card back, but being the taskmaster that our counselors are, especially Angie, that just wasn't going to happen. So after chewing on it, on the question, I ended up choosing a fish. Not just any fish, but Dory from the movie Finding Nemo. So let's go on a little trip tonight. For those of you who are not familiar with the movie, Marlin lived on a reef. A barracuda attacked his family, and the only survivor were Marlin and his son Nemo. That reef was a safe haven for them. It was beautiful, just like our lives prior to losing our loved ones. A fisherman had caught Nemo, and like a devoted parent, Marlin crossed uncharted waters to find his son when he ran into a fish by the name of Dory. The ocean is similar to our grief. There were dark places in that ocean, and yet once in a while, there was a glimmer of light. Just like us, as we travel on our grief journey, there are many times that we can't see things that are right in front of us because of the darkness. Dory was very forgetful and couldn't seem to remember anything, which resembles the cloudiness that surrounds our minds while grieving. Like the ocean, grief comes in waves, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm, and sometimes it's just overwhelming. At one point, Dory was trying to talk to the whales to get direction. Now, she really thought she could talk to the whale. Wah, 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 she went. I ask you, how many times are people talking to you and all you hear is wah, wah, wah? That's the grief. It affects every part of our body. They ended up in the belly of the whale, just like triggers do to us as we grieve. As Dory and Marlin were swimming along, they came in contact with a school of fish who told them that up ahead there was a trench and that they should swim through it, not over it. When they arrived and saw that trench, it was dark and scary. But that was the path they were told to take. Even though we are often told to not do something, we look at that trench and say, nope, 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 nope. I'm going to take the path of least resistance. And then, bam, we quickly realize that it was not a good idea. What Dory and Marlin had encountered when they went the wrong way was a swarm of jellyfish. Dory was stung so many times that she eventually was paralyzed. She couldn't move. She couldn't swim any further, stuck in the middle of danger, just like grief. It hits us so hard that we can't move. We just shut down. When Marlin discovered that Dory was in trouble, he went into that swarm and pulled her out. I want you to look at the people beside you, in front of you, and behind you right now. These folks, you are now surrounded by survivors who are now your friends, your blue family. We are your support. We will walk beside you as we travel this grief journey. Faith, family, and friends are how I endure the hardships in life. When I lost my husband, Patrolman Scott Moyer of Lancaster, Ohio Police Department, we were married for 40 years. And then our daughter died. Just like each of you, my heart was shattered into a million pieces. I didn't realize that my heart could hurt that badly. But because of my faith, my family, and my friends, and our organization, I am able to stand before you tonight. Back to the card that I got dealt. Why did I choose Dory? Because throughout her journey, she taught us that no matter how hard things seem, we must keep moving if we're going to get through it. Dory said, when life gets you down, do you know what you gotta do? Just keep swimming. Remember, when we feel like life is overwhelming, we do what? I can hear you. Just keep swimming. It is the best way to honor our fallen, showing them that we keep swimming, because that is what our loved ones would want us to do. I need to go in left field here for just a second or two because I want to thank Pepperidge Farms. If you look under your seat, there was a bag, and inside that bag, Pepperidge Farms graciously agreed to donate 5,000 bags of goldfish crackers for tonight's event. I hope you guys got some. Oh, sorry. Okay. But you know what? It takes a village. Thank you to Bill Swank, Sheriff Stanford, Bill Alexander and his volunteers, Sheriff Corbin, Diane Mernhardt, and the cop staff. However, there was a teeny tiny little glitch, and we received both goldfish and cookies. So, goldfish and fish food, right? It reminded me that our friends are the nutrition to keep us swimming. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful evening, and I thank you.
The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial was dedicated 33 years ago. Every year since, the names of the fallen have been read aloud to honor their sacrifice. Tonight, we continue that proud tradition with the reading of the 282 names that were added to the memorial in 2024. The names will be read by the Memorial Fund's Board of Directors and other special guests. They will be read in the order of the state in which they served. The candle lighting in honor of these and all of our nation's fallen law enforcement heroes will occur immediately following the reading of the names. Please refrain from lighting your candles until after the memorial candle is lit on stage and the flame is passed on to all of you. At this time, the Honorable Merrick Garland, Attorney General of the United States, will begin this evening's roll call of honor.
From the state of Alabama, Kimberly Dawn Roberts Sycophus, Garrett Coulter Crumby, Carlos E.J. Taylor, John C. Thrower.
From the state of Arizona, David Lee Johnson. From the state of Arkansas, Jeff David Hust. James Michael Lett. William Wesley Rainbolt.
Continuing from the state of Arkansas, Vincent Anthony Parks. Jim Ray Carlton. Bolivar S. Moore. William Murphy.
Continuing from the state of Arkansas, Ray Audrey Campbell. From the state of California, Aubrey Helene Phillips. Frank Hernandez Murillo. Ryan Michael Klinkenbrummer.
Continuing from the state of California, Becky Vanessa Strong. Chad Edward Swanson. Dwan Q. Lee.
Continuing from the state of California, Brett Michael Harris. Donnell Andrew Calhoun. Ralph Edward Serrano.
Continuing from the state of California, Rodrigo Delgado. Gonzalo Carrasco de Wañas. From the state of Colorado, Michael Anthony Moran.
Continuing from the state of Colorado, Julian Gonzalo Basara. From the state of Connecticut, Robert Carl Garton. From the state of Florida, Petter Thomas Johnson.
Continuing from the state of Florida, Jack Sale Stewart. Anthony William Rickerson. Israel Shepard Hughes.
Continuing from the state of Florida, Paul Shipperwright. Charles Hugh Herring. Isaac Henry Simmons. Michael Paul Kunovich.
From the state of Georgia, Clarence Lamar Williams II. Ty Michael Brown. Harry L. Cook.
Continuing from the state of Georgia, Robert Danforth Clark. James Foley. Edward G. McNichols.
Continuing from the state of Georgia, Mark Andrew McIntyre. Robert Daniel Rogers. From the state of Hawaii, Bill Mila Sopolu. From the state of Illinois, Ariana Michaela Preston. Andres Mauricio Vasquez Lasso. Todd C. Gillerlane. Charles A. Hipsch.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Francis McGraw. From the state of Indiana, Benjamin Tobias Thornton. Michael Robert Keel. Donald Max Nieswinger, Jr.
Continuing from the state of Indiana, Sean Allen Burnell, Aaron Nathaniel Smith, James Ray Bailey, Ralph Gerald Aikman.
Continuing from the state of Indiana, Timothy James Geyer, John Anthony Durham, Stephen Miller, Ross John Krieger.
Continuing from the state of Indiana, Heather Jane Glenn, Asan Anthony Hacker, W. Meade Smith. From the state of Iowa, Kevin Michael Cram.
From the state of Kansas, Jonah Oswald, James Lucero, Brian Glenn Russo.
From the Commonwealth of Kentucky, August Utendahofer, Louis C. Story, John Centers, Elijah Roberts.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, James Brady McLean, James Claxton, Raymond Alexander Birdsong, Caleb Kenneth Conley.
From the state of Louisiana, Kyle Michael Melanson, David Jacob Poirier, Scotty Wayne Canizero, and Michael Stephen Gottawa.
Continuing from the state of Louisiana, Charles Fitzgerald Dotson, Sean Kevin Kelly, Nicholas Neil Pepper.
Continuing from the state of Louisiana, Robert William McKinney, George Calvin White, Trevor Aaron Abney, Carl Douglas Kimball.
Continuing from the state of Louisiana, Marilyn Anjanette Mayo, Barry Paul Gilio. From the state of Maryland, Scott Charles McCardle.
From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Daniel M. McLean, Anthony J. Pasquello, Alexander Griffin.
Continuing the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Paul J. Tracy. From the state of Michigan, Frederick Charles Bowens, Jr., Isam Muhammad Qassem, Armando Greer Travis, Sr.
Continuing from the state of Michigan, David Irwin Cook, George A. Brown, John Brodett, Martin Draft.
Continuing from the state of Michigan, Herman Wilkowitz, Daniel Allen Kimmerzel. From the state of Minnesota, Joshua Anthony Owen. From the state of Mississippi, Horan Randall Tyler.
Continuing from the state of Mississippi, Jairus Dion Davis. From the state of Missouri, Charles Lee Burns, Mason Evans Griffith, James Matthew Mulbauer.
Continuing from the state of Missouri, Kelly Bernard Rolando, Jason Scott Pulliam. From the state of Nebraska, Willis Gardner Daggett, Christopher John Marcello.
Continuing from the state of Nebraska, Colby Lee Baber, Orrin Sylvester Etherton. From the state of Nevada, Victor Antoine Hunter.
Continuing from the state of Nevada, Michael Salvatore Abadi, Alberto E. Daniel Felix, Clifford Vincent Fontaine.
Continuing from the state of Nevada, Anthony John Franconi. From the state of New Jersey, Laverne Harrison Carr, Robert Joseph Schisler.
Continuing from the state of New Jersey, Gerald T. Barbados Sr., Richard E. Tesoro, Richard Weber, William Donald Boatger Sr.
Continuing for the state of New Jersey, Richard Louis Ruiz Sr., David John Lee, William J. Garan Sr.
From the state of New Mexico, Anthony Dale Ferguson, James M. Sides, Sammy J. Churillo.
From the state of New York, Michael J. Kearns, Carl John Cedarholt, John Joseph McCauley.
Continuing from the state of New York, Gregorio Morales, Stephen C. Moselio, Troy D. Patterson.
Continuing from the state of New York, John F. McCardle, Michael G. Pretatori, Francis A. Gaynor.
Continuing from the state of New York, James Stephen McCormick, Stephen Anthony Darby, Jordan Silver.
Continuing from the state of New York, Maureen Gill Donahue, Mark N. Bressick, Thomas M. Lilly, Janelle Sanders.
Continuing from the state of New York, George Flores, Victor Vargas, Eric Cailla, Angel Escadre.
Continuing from the state of New York, James A. Mastrocovo, Nicholas Holovinsky, Zachary Slavin, Ronald E. Higgins.
Continuing from the state of New York, William J. Keating, Thomas J. Graham, Anthony J. Garvey.
Continuing from the state of New York, Thomas F. Roach, Jr., Donald E. Cassian, Jr., Ivan Gonzalez.
Continuing from the state of New York, John J. Walker III, Pedro Antonio Candia, Martin M. Podolsky.
Continuing from the state of New York, Lawrence J. Brom, Frank D. Randall, Jr., Francisco de Castro, Jr.
Continuing from the state of New York, Patrick James Hogan, James Loughlin Ward, William Michael Kelly.
Continuing from the state of New York, Pedro A. Ferreira Sr., Timothy E. Coyne, Roland Anthony Gray.
Continuing from the state of New York, Marco E. Barnes, Chanda D. Barnes, Nicholas F. Ortiz.
Continuing from the state of New York, James A. Garrity, William Anthony Jr., Marcos M. Quinones.
Continuing from the state of New York, William Patrick Bradigan, Jr., Michael Romano, John Horn.
Continuing from the state of New York, Robert Moradian, Andrew L. Quinlan, Michael Anthony DeVecchis, Scott G. Lovendahl.
Continuing from the state of New York, Alberto Nieves, John Christopher Ryan, Emil Harnischfigger.
Continuing from the state of New York, Robert M. Burney, Christopher P. Rock, Scott Charles Norcutt, Christopher James Garrow.
Continuing from the state of New York, Nicholas A. Georgiadis, Patrick J. Hogan, Edward T. Killick, Anthony B. Ash.
Continuing from the state of New York, William John DeBlock, Lawrence W. Lakeman, Robert John Kerwin, Thomas Patrick Capitello.
From the state of North Carolina, Austin Smith Rudelhuber, Philip Dale Nix. From the state of North Dakota, Charles McCarthy, Jake Ryan Wallen.
Continuing from the state of North Dakota, Paul Stephen Martin. From the state of Ohio, Billy Joe Eyrig, Terrence Nicholas Bateman, Orion Owen Hale.
Continuing from the state of Ohio, Marcus Lee Ziegler, Gerald Ford Lynch, Joshua Isaac Hamilton.
Continuing from the state of Ohio, Mark Urban Heinel I, Matthew David Mitchell, Timothy James Unwin.
Continuing from the state of Ohio, Anthony Eugene Cloyd. From the state of Oklahoma, Joseph Lee Barlow, Jeremy David McCain.
Continuing for the state of Oklahoma, John Robert Randolph III, Bolivar Thornton Knight. From the state of Oregon, George Martin Lowe, Jared John Miller, Joseph Wayne Johnson.
From the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Justin Clark McIntyre, Sean Leonard Slogansky, Jacques F. Rougeau Jr., Richard Carrero Mendez.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Christopher David Fitzgerald, Russell Minor Brown. From the state of South Carolina, Matthew Logan Hare, Jacob Eric Salrin.
From the state of Tennessee, James Michael Russ, Tucker Carmichael Blakely, William Jace Cherry.
Continuing from the state of Tennessee, Shannon Eric Lane Sr., Joffrey Bernard Red, Thomas Park Neely, Christopher Bayard Cummings.
From the state of Texas, Darren Curtis McMichael, Jorge Ignacio Pastor, Joshua Lee Klaus, David Walter Bozecker.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Santos Perez, James Edgar Williams, John Arden Jensen, George W. Swank.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Milton Gabriel Resendez, Lorenzo Bustos, Stephen Lee Gibson, Jason Stewart Jones.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Jovine Jamal Motley, Stephen Alton Carnes. From the state of Utah, James D. Snipes. From the state of Vermont, Jessica Marie Ebbinghausen.
From the Commonwealth of Virginia, Joseph Edward Carey, Sr., Mark Christopher Wagner II. From the state of West Virginia, Stephen Paul Gitlin II, Corey Stephen Maynard.
From the state of Wisconsin, Hunter Timothy Scheel, Emily Ann Bradenbach, Peter E. C. Jerving, Star Albert Miles, Caitlin Ray Leasing.
From the federal agencies, Trinity Leanne Reinhardt, John Thomas Self, Donald Herman Heitkamp, Barry Philip Holmes, Charles Lane Husky.
Continuing from the federal agencies, John Joseph Hess, Patrick Charles Bauer, Robert Charles Castione, Jr.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Freddie Ortiz, Scott Densmore Ritchie, Jacqueline M. Montero.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Edgard Garcia, Orion F. Hush, Peleg Palmer.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Kuntz Stahlberger, Patrick Joseph Black, William D. Hildreth, Jesse S. Perkins.
From the U.S. Virgin Islands, Delworth Ian Phipps, Jr., Lionel Emmanuel Isaac.
Behind every name read here tonight, and on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, are stories and memories that burn brightly, tonight and always. Stories that inspire us, and memories that cannot be extinguished. As a symbol of that eternal remembrance, Secretary Mayorkas and COPS National President Connie Moyer will now light the memorial candle. The flame will then be passed to each of you with the help of the trustees of the Concerns of Police Survivors. As you're lighting your candles, retired Las Cruces police officer and country music recording artist Frank Ray will sing his law enforcement tribute, Badge 764.
Pulled kids out of wrecked cars, delivered babies in the backseat, cuffed a buddy in a dive bar, and he still ain't forgave me. Changed some flats on the highway, talked a guy off a tall bridge. No picture in the paper, but there's a finger painting of me hanging up on the fridge. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a Holy Ghost lover. A 911, I got your back, brother. No matter what, I'll show up. There's a heart beating fast under all this blue. Just doing my job, man, just like you. Kiss my baby goodbye one more time and walk out the door. Checking in, badge 764. Yeah, I know till I get home she ain't gonna sleep a wink. While I'm out working, she's tossing and turning, worried, spinning like a bullet in a washing machine. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a Holy Ghost lover. A 911, I got your back, brother. No matter what, I show up. There's a heart beating fast under all this blue. Just doing my job, man, just like you. Kiss my baby goodbye one more time and walk out the door. I'm checking in, badge 764. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a Holy Ghost lover. A 911, I got your back, brother. No matter what, I show up. There's a heart beating fast under all this blue. Just doing my job, man, just like you. Kiss my baby hello. Yeah, daddy's home. And shut the door. Checking out badge.
As guardians of public safety, law enforcement professionals are called upon to risk their lives every day for the safety and protection of others, and often to witness the unthinkable. Day or night, on duty or off, they never stop protecting others. Their heroism is unparalleled, and the debt of gratitude we owe them can never be fully paid. Many of those men and women are here with us tonight. We honor you today and every day. Our memorial, your memorial, pays tribute to the heroic spirit of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Each year, with heavy hearts, we carve their names in marble so that their stories will never be forgotten. Behind every name engraved on the memorial wall are the officers' loved ones whose watch has not ended and whose grief sadly endures. Tonight, we come together in solidarity with and support of the surviving families and agencies of those heroes to respect, honor, and remember their loss. As we raise our candles skyward in silent tribute, but united by light, we pledge to always remember and cherish those who have fallen, those who have been left behind, and those who continue to serve. And let us always remember, it's not how these heroes died, but how they lived.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Times get rough, and friends just can't be found like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. When you need a friend, and pain is all around like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. me down. I will save your life. Lay me down. I'll save your life. And lay me down. I would save your life. I would lay me down. I just wanna go home. Just wanna go home. Just wanna go home. Lay me down. I would lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. Lay me down.
Ladies and gentlemen, First Sergeant Michael McCann of the Virginia State Police will now perform the bagpipe solo, Going Home. Ladies and gentlemen, for your safety, please carefully extinguish your candles at this time and rise for the Retreat of Colors and Taps, performed by United States Capitol Police Sergeant Paul Lindenman and retired Sergeant Rick Pasciuto.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a moment and thank the people who behind the scenes who helped tonight happen. The men and women who work for and with the Memorial Fund, the hundreds of volunteers, retired Chief Rosa Gwixons, who spent the last 5 months of her life planning this event tonight, who's now the executive director of our memorial. I want to thank each of you for coming out to help celebrate and honor all of those most recently added to the wall and all of those that they join. I want to thank Frank Ray for that incredible rendition of the national anthem and his interlude songs. I want to thank the U.S. Park Police. I want to thank the National Park Service. I want to thank the distinguished guests, including those who gave remarks. I want to thank the gentleman from U.S. Capitol Police who played echo taps at the end. I want to thank First Sergeant Michael McCann, who led the pipes and drums teams before the ceremony started and just played that beautiful solo just as we're closing to the end. Most importantly, I want to take a moment and thank again the sponsors, particularly Verizon. Presenting sponsor for tonight, the big red truck behind us, the cell repeaters that are behind the crowd to help us stay connected, the hundreds of man hours they have invested, the public support they have shown us and law enforcement, and the huge financial investment without which we could not have done the event that we just did tonight. Verizon's not alone. Motorola Solutions Foundation, Police Unity Tour, Tyler Technologies, Haas Alert, 511 Tactical, Target, Wheelan Engineering, and more. They support us tonight. They support us year after year. They support you. Ladies and gentlemen, may God bless each of you and your families. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
When leaving the Candlelight Vigil, all survivors registered through COPS may use the buses staged on both 7th and 3rd Streets to return to the Washington Hilton and Omni Shoreham hotels. All buses will stop at both locations. The buses will cycle twice, so please be patient if you're unable to board for the first trip.